Hello, good evening. You're watching News 360 from the News Hub at Adesawe Kanda. I am Portia Gabo.
And I'm Isa Moni. Thank you for joining us. We have the headlines coming up in a moment.
News 360 Headlines is brought to you by...
In the headlines tonight, Ghana wins over a decade maritime litigation against Ivory Coast.
Meanwhile, Vice President Dr. Bawumia commends Ghana's legal team for winning the maritime dispute over La Côte d'Ivoire.
TALO Ghana to resume operations at the 10 oil fields by December 2017 after putting it on hold for 2 years.
We'll go to the western region where over 3,000 inhabitants of Anglo Beach in the Shama district want urgent intervention to relocate after ravaging tidal waves.
And later in international news, Iran says it has successfully tested a new medium-range missile in defiance of U.S. President Donald Trump.
We have details coming up shortly. To stay with us.
In the news tonight, the International Tribunal of the Law of the Sea has unanimously ruled in favor of Ghana in the 3-year-long maritime dispute with Côte d'Ivoire. The special chamber of the ILTOs ruled that there has not been any violation on the part of Ghana on Côte d'Ivoire's maritime boundary.
The chamber rejected Côte d'Ivoire's argument that Ghana's coastal lines were unstable, upholding Ghana's sovereignty over the disputed oil basin, while the tribunal rejected Ghana's claim that Côte d'Ivoire is stopped from making a claim for the disputed territory because of prior conduct. The chamber equally rejected Ivory Coast's claim that a meridian measurement is used. In consideration of the new boundary, the chamber determined that it starts from boundary 55 to 200 nautical miles away, a position which affirmed Ghana's argument. Reading the judgment, President of the Special Chamber, Justice Boalem Boagueta of Algeria, averred Ghana's argument of adoption of the equidistance method of delineation of the maritime boundary. The chamber unanimously finds that Ghana did not violate the sovereign right of Côte d'Ivoire.
Point 5 unanimously finds that Ghana didn't violate the sovereign rights of Côte d'Ivoire. Unanimously finds that Ghana did not violate Article 83, paragraph 1 and 3 of the Convention. And point 7 finds that Ghana did not violate the provisional measures prescribed by the Special Chamber in its order of 25 April 2015.
In 2014, Ghana took the case to the International Tribunal of the Law of the Sea to dispel claims it has encroached Côte d'Ivoire's marine borders as part of oil exploration activities in Cape 3 Point off the shores of the western region. Ghana's defense held that Côte d'Ivoire was barred from demanding ownership to the disputed area. It had acknowledged that Ghana owned the space without any qualms in the decade leading up to the oil discovery.
Meanwhile, Ghana and La Côte d'Ivoire has settled to abide by the decision of the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, ITLOS. According to a statement issued jointly by the two countries, Ghana and La Côte d'Ivoire have accepted the decision of the ITLOS in accordance with its statutes and will fully collaborate for its implementation.
Said the two countries affirmed the willingness to work together to strengthen relations of cooperation and good neighborliness.
The mutual commitment of the two countries to abide by the terms of this decision from the Special Chamber and to fully collaborate for its implementation. The two countries affirm the strong will to work together to strengthen and intensify their brotherly relationships of cooperation and good neighborliness.
The statement issued on the joint behalf of the President of Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire commended the special chamber of the ITLOs for the courteous attention with which the proceedings were conducted.
Meanwhile, the Vice President Mamadou Bawumia has been speaking about the victory.
As all of you know, we have been in a very friendly and brotherly dispute with our brothers Côte d'Ivoire over the demarcation of our maritime boundaries. This friendly and brotherly dispute was taken to the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, and judgment was rendered, and that judgment is very consistent with Ghana's position all along. And so we are thankful to God, and we are also thankful to our brothers from Côte d'Ivoire and the government of Côte d'Ivoire. There is no winner or loser of this. We are all winners because we'll continue to live in peace with one another and cooperate with one another across many, many spheres. So we are all winners. We took a very, very good way to resolve this dispute. There was no fighting, there was no quarreling. We just adjudicated at the International Tribunal, and the matter, by the grace of God, has been settled.
And on this issue, we have Marietta Brew-Opong, who is a former Attorney General, and we'll be speaking to her on Skype and to find out how she feels about this whole thing. Good evening, Madam, and it's good to speak to you.
Good evening, and how are you?
Very well indeed. You obviously are delighted at the turn of the trial, but what really does this mean for Ghana?
Well, of course, I'm delighted. I'm happy that our position on the maritime boundary has been upheld by the tribunal. It simply means that we retain the territory that we had said was ours all along. It also means that all the resources in that area continue to remain Ghana's. It's as simple as that. It also means that finally we have a resolution to where the boundary lies. You recollect that the tribunal gave specific coordinates, and based on an equidistant line, and once that line is drawn, and I believe it's been plotted, which coincides with, or almost coincides with the line that we've had all these years, it's confirmed that that is the maritime boundary.
Madam, really, how much has this hurt our business dealings since it's been on since 2008 in that area?
When you say it has hurt our business dealings, let me say that to the best of my knowledge, when I was in office, none of our contractors pulled out of that area. None of them abrogated the contracts, as far as I know, when I was in office. And so I do not think that it really affected our business or our relationship with the contractors working in that area. In addition, one of the things that the former President Mahama, directed was that these proceedings should be conducted in as cordial a manner as possible so as to preserve the relationship we have with Côte d'Ivoire. And I believe we did that as well. And I believe that the current government will continue to preserve that relationship despite the favorable outcome of the case to Ghana.
I remember in 2015, TALO was asked to hold on with its activities in the area. What would you say about that?
That is not accurate. There was an application for provisional measures, and what the tribunal said was that there would be no new drilling. That is exactly what the tribunal said. So with regard to, I think you mentioned TALO, am I right?
Right.
Yes, they continued with the work, and we all saw the FPSO come into the country. Everything has been installed, TALO is working, and we haven't seen TALO stop its operations. And I believe TALO is going to continue with its work in the area. Nothing is going to affect its work. We are all going to abide by the decision of the tribunal. There's been a joint press statement by Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana, and our contractors will continue working in that area.
Do you have a feeling the ruling might affect bilateral relations with La Côte d'Ivoire? Hello, madam, can you hear me? It appears we have lost...
Hear me? Can you hear me?
All right, you're back. I can hear you. We lost you momentarily. I was asking if you have a feeling this could affect bilateral relations with La Côte d'Ivoire.
I don't think so. The resolution of the dispute before ITLOS did not affect our relations. We continue to maintain a cordial relation. And if it would affect the manner in which we deal with each other, I doubt that our Attorney General and the agent of Côte d'Ivoire would have issued a joint press statement. They issued a joint press statement, and I'm confident that's the beginning of continuing with the relationship after the resolution of the dispute.
Madam Benedicta, we're grateful for your time this evening, and thank you for speaking to us. Right, this is a really big issue, and we're back in the studio, and I'm glad to have Kojo Poku, who is an energy expert. Kojo, good to see you.
Good evening.
I'm sure this is the first time we're meeting.
This is the first time we're meeting.
Right, I'm very well indeed, but you look good in a way.
Thank you.
Let's look at the business aspect of this. How would this affect oil production?
Well, it will affect it in a positive way. When 10 fields were basically discovered, they were to do 24 wells. They drilled only 11 wells, and out of the 24, the 11 that were drilled, there's application in 2015, which the Honorable former AG talks of, that they were asked to stop keep what you have done, but don't do any further activities. You know, so when the ruling came, only 11 wells, and out of the 11 wells, when the FPSO Atamils came, we're only being able to produce 50,000 barrels per day. The FPSO Atamils have 80,000 barrels per day. So for the last 2 years, imagine Ghana has been without 30,000 barrels that we could have had to show up our production. That aside, there are other blocks like the Hess block, which have made some very good progress in discoveries. They couldn't go into appraisal and production because it was also affected by the ruling.
Tell us more about that. How many people do we have waiting on the sidelines just in case Ghana wins the case? Because obviously, since the issue was in court, I'm sure people will be a bit reluctant to have some business dealings with us.
The difference in coming forward the last year, we've stopped the normal way of application for blocks. Now the new directive is that we are going to have a bidding round. So in the last 2 years, there hasn't been new application for blocks in Ghana. Everybody is waiting for maybe second quarter next year when there will be a bidding round for everybody to now be able to put in their offer for the available blocks. But what has happened is that new companies like AGM, which is below the Hess block, Carmack, which is above the TALO block, they had just applied and gotten their petroleum agreement for the blocks. And because of the the court case, they couldn't even start their exploration, and their activities has been stalled greatly in the last 2 years because of that. So aside TALO, which had Jubilee 2 and also the 10 to develop, to do the 13 wells that extra, you have Carmack and AGM, which are new blocks that the minute they got the exploration licenses, they couldn't do any work. So now that this ruling has come in our favor, they would be able to now get in the seismic, be able to place the seismic order for seismic boats to come in and do the necessary exploration that they need to do.
I'm sure this is going to bring a lot of money to us in terms of producing oil and selling. Assuming we did not win, I mean, how much would we have lost?
Oh, quite a significant amount, because imagine where the delineation they wanted took away the whole of the TALO block, which is where the 10 fields are, which is where Jubilee is, and that is where we are most prolific as a country, the TANO Basin. And in the ruling that the judges, there was a bit where they said that you cannot delineate based on economic, because the Ivorians were trying to argue that because they have a similar structure in terms of where oil is found, and that is the structure that extends to the Ghana end, so they should be given that area because it is a structure which extends from their end to our continental shelf. And the judges said, no, look, you cannot do that because the geographical line is geographical line. You cannot delineate for economic purposes. So yes, we are very prolific in the TANO Basin, and that is where most of our future exploration and production is going to come from. So it would have been a lot in terms of how much we project. We've taken a lot of loans on the back of that. The Ghana gas and all the projects that we've done in this country is of the back of the oil find that we have. So if we had gone to Ivory Coast, it would have been a big problem for us financially.
What should we do to avoid recurrence of this kind of dispute?
Well, I think we are the only country that, one of the countries that don't really patrol our seas. I think the government, against all odds, should secure naval vessels for the Navy. We only have patrol boats. We don't have vessels. You know, we need vessels to go to basically the deep seas to patrol our borders. And now that we've gotten the maritime boundary given to us by the court, we need to patrol it. You know what I mean? Not only people are talking about the Togo end as well. We might also have issues when we go into exploration in the Keita Basin, when we now have some findings in the Keita Basin.
That's the new interest area,
exactly,
right?
And the Voltarian Basin also, we are talking about some exploration in that area. So yes, we need to patrol our borders. And if we have been patrolling our borders, most of these activities will not occur. So going forward, I think everybody is saying that, look, yes, we won Ivory Coast. Let's also keep one eye on the Togo border. If we can also test the case to make sure that we know what our borders are. And when we are spending the billions of money, we're spending within our borders and not in other people's territory.
Nice speaking to you, Kujapoko. I'm sure we'll find a lot more time.
No, definitely.
To deliberate on this issue. Ghana has won the case against Ivory Coast on the maritime border dispute. It's been on since 2008. Thank you very much for being with us, Kujapoko. He's an energy expert. On News360, let's continue with some more stories tonight. And TALO Ghana Limited is to resume operations at the 10 oil fields by December 2017 after putting it on hold for 2 years due to the maritime border dispute between Ghana and the Côte d'Ivoire. At a media engagement after the ruling, Managing Director of TALO Ghana, Asiedu-Dartey, said 10 fields were not affected by the new maritime boundary determined by the tribunal.
ITLOS's first ruling in 2015 placed a moratorium on new projects, with all projects continuing after Côte d'Ivoire filed for preliminary measures and urged the tribunal to suspend all activities on the disputed area until the definitive determination of the case. The moratorium prevented TALO Oil from drilling additional 13 wells. TALO thus drilled 11 wells in Ghana's first oil field. However, in the final judgment delivered on September 23, the special chamber ruled that there had not been any violation on the part of Ghana on Ivory Coast maritime boundary. ITLOS, also following the ruling, determined a new boundary for the two countries. Managing Director of TALO Ghana, Asiedu-Dartey, said the 10 fields were not affected by the new maritime boundary determined by the tribunal.
The border, as determined by them, doesn't affect our 10 fields. And therefore, we can continue to pursue our business. They made it clear that we hadn't violated any of the provisional measures, and therefore, again, well, when I say we, mean Ghana, and therefore, once again, we can pursue our operations on the Ghana side of the border without any disruption.
He further indicated that they will now work with the government of Ghana to put in place the necessary permits to allow the restart of development drilling in the 10 fields.
They will be in touch with the Ghana government in relation to the next major activities that we'll take up. In any business, any different aspects of the activities require different consents and permits. And what we're saying is that the next step which we are going forward for we will make sure we have all the necessary consents and permits of the government. And that essentially is a drilling exercise in respect of additional wells.
TALO expects to resume drilling around the end of the year. TALO's 10th field currently produces about 40,000 barrels of oil per day.
In other news, President Akufo-Addo has stressed the need for cocoa farmers to be given a major stake in the world cocoa industry. At a meeting with members of the World Cocoa Foundation in New York, President Akufo-Addo called for increased investment into value addition to cocoa beans to benefit farmers.
Ghana is the world's second leading producer of cocoa and a leader in the production of premium cocoa beans. Ghana currently produces about 700,000 metric tons of cocoa beans annually. The need for Ghana to add value to cocoa before exporting has been drummed home over the years, but the country still exports about 80% of its raw cocoa beans, losing a lot of foreign earnings. Currently, there are about 7 major cocoa processing firms in Ghana, including the Ghana Cocoa Processing Company. President Akufo-Addo's meeting with members of the World Cocoa Foundation was in line with his desire to industrialize the Ghanaian economy and make life better for the Ghanaian cocoa farmer. The meeting, which was a follow-up of January meeting, was to court cocoa investors into the country. President of the World Cocoa Foundation, Richard Scobie, said his members are ready to explore more opportunities in Ghana.
How do they see investment in Ghana? What can the companies do to help meet your administration's goals, increasing production to 1 million tons, and more importantly, support the goal of increased processing?
President Akufo-Addo expressed worry that Ghana is yet to benefit from the chocolate industry, which is worth $100 billion. He noted that value addition to cocoa in Ghana will go a long way to improve on the livelihood of cocoa farmers and the country in general.
The farmer doesn't get the requisite value for the sweat and the toil they put into creating. Between Cote d'Ivoire and ourselves, the year 2015, 18 months ago, we had something like $5.8 billion for this 60%. And yet, my understanding is that the chocolate market is worth some over $100 billion. For me, I think the time has come for us to look at ways, intelligent, sustainable ways of changing that equation.
Government targets to increase cocoa production from the current 700,000 metric tons to 1 million metric tons per year.
The Ghana Journalists Association yesterday officially received a certificate of unionization from the Ghana Trades Union Congress (TUC) after 6 decades of attempts to get one. Per the International Federation of Journalists recommendation, countries across the world have a 2018 deadline to be unionized. The GJA president expressed satisfaction at the meeting the deadline and is confident the union would increase the negotiation powers of the GJA to have conditions of service for media practitioners improved. Well, this evening we have been joined in the studio by President of the Ghana Journalists Association, Roland Alphamoni. Good evening and thanks for your time.
Good evening.
So, after 6 decades of waiting, finally GJA has a certificate of unionization from the Trades Union Congress.
Sure.
For members of the Ghana Journalists Association, what does this mean?
First of all, let me state emphatically that 12 September 2017 will occupy a special place in history as the most momentous day in the history, in the life of the GJA, because, as rightly said, it was the day we received our certificate of unionization. This union baby has been incubating for decades, as you rightly said. Thank God we actualized your dream yesterday. And it means we now are legally empowered to serve as intermediary between our workers, our members, and the employees. And I believe we don't need to recap the wounds. Many generally Ghanaian workers are not paid well. In some work-case scenarios, they are not paid at all. And so, as the saying goes, man must survive. And the survival instinct and sometimes pushes them to certain criminal heights, which I believe should not be repeated. Thank God all this will hopefully be consigned to the dustbin of history with the receive with the receipt of the certificate.
How would the Ghana Journalists Association negotiate the conditions of service for journalists, especially as in some cases or most cases, journalists themselves do the negotiation themselves?
First of all, we want every media worker to join the union train. Some are already unionized, those who belong to the social media and TV3. But majority, with the explosion on the media landscape, majority of our media workers are now in the private sector. So our main focus is to target media workers in the private sector, and thus will give us this will now empower us to look at the conditions under which they work. And we said yesterday, and it bears repeating, we are not out to set ourselves on a collision course with employers, not at all. Thus, we don't believe in antagonism. We're not going to antagonize anybody. Ours is to dialogue with the employers and let them appreciate the fact that decent working conditions have the prospect to crystallize into improved conditions, and improved conditions will also hopefully, reflect in qualitative output in whatever they do. And this in turn will also yield high dividends on the investment. So that mutual relationship, mutual benefit to the employer and the employees will be established with the unionization of the GJ and media workers.
So does this mean that you're going to directly negotiate with media employers on behalf of journalists?
Certainly, yes. Once they sign on, then we are not legally obliged to respond to their issues. So as we speak, even though we have all the power by virtue of what we do as media practitioners, we exert all the influence. Now we have that legal underpinning to the power we wield and influence the pedal. And this will help us to shape better working conditions for media workers.
Does this require all journalists to be registered under GJ?
Yes, we're rolling out an intensive and expansive membership drive. We've been restrictive over the years in terms of membership. Now we've opened the floodgates, so we are encouraging every media worker across the country to join.
Well, just before you go away, next week we have elections of the Ghana Journalists Association, and I'm sure you've seen social media, some people personally attacking you. Are you perturbed by these attacks?
Portia, I am disinclined to be deflected from doing what is right. Even in the twilight of my first term, I will not flinch from doing what is right, championing the interest of our members. Just what we did yesterday is ample proof of what we have done and what we can do.
So you sure of victory next week?
I trust in the sense of judgment of journalists, and I believe this election is not about who is most popular. It's about who is equipped in an eminent manner with substantive competence and professional solidity to lead the organization.
Well, just before you go, I did say just before you go, there's this issue about insurance packages for journalists, and
certainly,
I'm
yes,
giving you this opportunity to address
it is
this.
one of our landmark achievements. Our job is that we are exposed to all kinds of risks and dangers.
And the question is, how many journalists have benefited from this?
As I said, hitherto many journalists were not our members, but with the unionization, every media worker has now the window of opportunity to join. Then you'll be in a position to also assess what you have. We're going to also activate our research fund. We had a seed money from Fidelity Bank. There are lots of packages we've lined up, apart from immunization, we've also done insurance. And then GJ fund. Many journalists after retirement are condemned to join the pauperized community because of the pitiable condition which they find themselves. Now, after 5 years, you have the opportunity to access the fund, and when you retire, you are guaranteed something handsome to ensure that you live a decent life.
Well, thank you very much. Roland Afilmoni is the president of the Ghana Journalists Association. Let's now continue with the rest of our stories. And Ghana's former ambassador to the Netherlands, Dr. Tony Aidoo, has blamed the National Democratic Congress's loss in the 2016 elections on the numerous scandalous cases of corruption that hit the Mahama-led administration. He maintained the party had a weak communication machinery to counter the corruption allegations leveled heavily against them by then the opposition New Patriotic Party.
On TV3's Hot Issues on Saturday, Dr. Tony Aidoo said the 2016 electoral campaign was more of a communication battle that was won by the New Patriotic Party. He was of the view the Mahama administration's communication machinery always sat on the fence.
If you don't have people with historical recall, administrative memory, then seriously your communication becomes defective. Unfortunately for the NDC, the MPP propaganda machinery was much more effective.
The former ambassador to the Netherlands noted the numerous scandalous cases of corruption caused the defeat of the NDC, adding that the party failed the accountability test.
The numerous scandalous cases, Jida, Sada, and so on, did not augur well for the Mahama administration. The effect, therefore, was that the electorate was blinded relative to the numerous infrastructural projects that you managed to put up. They became insignificant in the face of the propaganda that your government was corrupt.
You're watching News 360 and still to come tonight. Over 3,000 inhabitants of Anglo Beach in the Shama district of the Western region want urgent intervention to relocate after ravaging tidal waves.
Coming up in international news, Iran successfully tests a new medium-range missile in defiance of U.S. President Donald Trump.
Details including sports coming up right after the break. Hello again. The inhabitants of Anglo Beach in the Shama district of the Western region want urgent intervention that will ensure their relocation to a safer place. The community of over 3,000 fisherfolk has been heavily exposed to sea level rise, which had swallowed more than half of their assets and continue to wreak havoc on them.
Anglo Beach is a settler fishing community northwest of Shama in the Western region. It is located at the estuary of the Pra River and surrounded by the sea, river and large swampy areas. The over 3,000 inhabitants are mainly fisherfolk from the Volta region who have settled there for nearly 70 years. However, worsening climatic conditions coupled with uncontrolled human activities have resulted in severe sea level rise along with strong tidal waves that continue to hit the community. At least more than half of the community has been taken away within the last 8 or more years. Houses, fishing gears, economic trees and other personal effects are lost each year to the sea.
So if you look at it, it's not very clear, I think, because of the light. Yes. But you can see the size of the sandbar. At that time, this was focusing towards Shama.
One of the worst disasters was in July this year, which washed away yet many assets. A fishmonger, Rose Agbenyo, was heavily affected. She tells us she lost everything she had, including her working capital.
We have lost all our property to the sea and now at our wits' end. We need urgent intervention. Wherever we are relocated, we are prepared to go.
The devastating impact of the sea level rise was still visible on Thursday, September 21, exposing the vulnerability of the people. Virtually every respondent to participant of a training program on climate change adaptation and mitigation in coastal areas of Ghana pushed for a relocation strategy as the ultimate solution.
We are saying if the government can come to our aid by giving us each household 2 rooms in which we will pay installment before we develop our the rest. Yeah, because reorganization is something difficult. Is to demolish your building and go and rebuild over there. It is not an easy thing.
The work we do normally is fishing, but we think if we are even up there, this will be our industrial area. We come, then do our fishing in the evening. We go back to the higher land.
The training was organized by the Center for Coastal Management, Department of Fisheries and Aquatic Sciences, University of Cape Coast, for selected journalists towards enhancing effective reportage on climate change and coastal-related issues. A parcel of land previously promised the community is now the target for negotiation, but external intervention is key in seeing their dream come true.
Away from the Western region, the senior minister, Yao Osafo-Maafo, says government will use all means possible to ensure the success of the free senior high school program. He maintained the goal of ensuring access to secondary education as a noble one that must not be considered second to any. The senior minister was addressing some senior high students in the Ashanti region.
The senior minister was in the Ashanti region to ascertain first-hand information on the implementation challenges of the free senior high school. Yao Osafo-Maafo and the regional minister, Simon Osei-Mensah, visited the KNUST SHS, where the headmistress highlighted their infrastructural challenges. Headmistress of the school, Joyce Owusu-Ansah, appealed to the minister to help complete a 40-unit classroom block which has been abandoned since 2008. At the Jusuman SHS, the headmistress, Grace Amu Ejei, said the school requested 950 students but was allocated 1,105 students. This, according to her, is compounding the already congested situation in the school. She appealed for the completion of the abandoned 2-story Get Fund Boys Dormitory block, which started in 2013. The situation was not different at the Jechipramso SHS in the Busumchi district. The school requested 465 students, but 1,171 students were placed there. The Ashanti Regional Minister, Simon Osei-Mensah, said the challenges in the various schools have been noted and will be addressed.
We asked the Regional Director, Ghana Education Service, to compile the list of all infrastructure problems or challenges. We've also tasked the various metro, municipal and district executives to also do so.
Addressing first-year students of Bekwai Wesley SHS, the senior minister, Yao Osafo-Maafo, advised them to take advantage of the free program to improve their status in society. He said government is committed towards sustaining the program and also fulfilling other campaign promises.
We want basic education as newly defined to be free, so that no Ghanaian child can be denied education to the level of senior high school on the grounds of affordability.
And now, Benedicta, the 15-year-old knee cancer patient, has undergone a successful surgery but requires 15,000 cedis for medication. The appeal for fund that we have organized so far has yielded only 4,000 cedis, and she needs 11,000 cedis more.
Story for us. For us, the most important thing is that Benedicta gets her life back, and that is what we are witnessing today. From today, she is going to be free. TV3 News has spent 2,000 cedis in ensuring Benedicta gets immediate medical care. The initial deposit could only cater for her basic expenses at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. There has been complications due to the lack of money to buy her medications. Doctors estimate 15,000 cedis could assist buy all her medication, admission fee and a possible prosthetic limb to enable Benedicta realize her dreams of going to school again. Presenting some items and a cash donation to Benedicta, the former Central Regional Deputy Minister, Quinsta Pokuya-Sawyer, said she was touched by the poor girl's plight through TV3's story.
Anybody who is ready to help should come to Benedicta's aid. We don't have to wait to have extra money, then we're going to go out of our way to support people. She's so anemic. That is what moved me here, and I am asking God to heal her for me, and it is out of our support that this girl is going to make it in life.
Receiving the items and an amount of 2,000 cedis on behalf of the girl, the head of the Accident and Orthopedic Department at Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Dr. Francis Quatin, thanked the MP for Aguna East, but called for more support for the poor girl.
At this stage, she needs money for the management. We are doing our part, but we have realized that she has constrained with funding, even to procure drugs, and then for blood transfusions and so on. So this will help. This will go a long way.
The CEO of Hotel The Hilda Takwa, Dr. Irinchi, on behalf of the hotel, also donated an amount of 2,000 cedis as part of his company's social responsibility to help Benedicta. You can also contribute by sending your donations to TV3 or through our social support fund account, Zenith Bank, account number 6010603927.
Well, thank you, Queen Star and Dr. Irinchi, for the support. Remember, Benedicta needs 11,000 cedis for medication. Media General, in collaboration with the Joy Temple of the International Central Gospel Church at Asiedu-Dartey, has embarked on a medical outreach program to encourage people to donate blood. More than 1,000 residents also received free health screening.
Its environs thronged the Joy Temple of the International Central Gospel Church at Asiedu-Dartey to partake in the church's 6th edition of the annual medical screening. The event, partnered by Media General and supported by 3 other commercial entities, diagnosed participants with malaria, typhoid, diabetes, hypertension, as well as sexually transmitted diseases.
Every time they come around here, there's only one trend that is emerging for those who are being managed for the diabetes, hypertension, and some of them are not compliant with their medications. And at least this offers us the opportunity even to talk to them and then educate them on the need to take their medication.
Blood was voluntarily donated to stock the blood bank. Although few people showed interest to donate blood as at 2 o'clock Saturday afternoon, organizers say they are confident of achieving their target. Senior pastor of the ICGC Joy Temple, Reverend Godson Ahiabo, affirmed of a program to psych members to consider blood donation a priority.
The blood bank needs a lot of blood to save life. So we have been psyching our members to be the people first to offer themselves, and also the community to help save lives by donating blood to the blood bank.
Solomon Nunu, a first-time blood donor participating in the exercise, shares his experience.
I feel like I am saving a life. I feel like I'm doing something extraordinary. I'm going beyond my normal limits, doing something extra with my life. And so I would encourage everybody to try it. It's a wonderful experience.
The outreach exercise forms part of activities marking the Joy Temple's 10th anniversary.
Tonight, what qualities would you look out for in your future wife? Well, 23-year-old spoken word artist Ko Kumi explored the theme in his latest masterpiece, Dear Future Wife.
If you should be a star, you will be a 5-pointed star. I will rate and rank you behind the love of my mother. Before I was a thought in the brain of my parents, God showed my mother love to save me egg.
My mom is a very supportive woman, because when I said poetry, I used to sleep in Accra. She doesn't know where I am, but she still allowed me to do what I want to do.
Imaginative spoken word artist Ko Kumi's Dear Future Wife expresses his deep felt love for his mum, reminding his future wife he'll rank her behind the love of his mum.
Dear future wife, I once loved you more than my mother, for from her ends I came through her wide open for the whole world to see.
When you go by the lines in the poem, the words, I say that I won't love my dear future wife more than my mother. But in the poem I also said that I will love my dear future wife just like a baby loves its mom. So I'm expecting my dear future wife to be tolerating. You should know that there are certain days I will choose my mom over her, but always our love will be intact.
Kokumi sees the personality of his mom as a mirror of who his future wife would be.
My mother is my example of a future wife. So to the other guys, if you want someone to be your future wife and you don't see your wife in your mom, then I think there's a problem. Maybe your mom didn't do something right, or your dear future wife is not doing something right. But I see who my future wife should be in my mom.
What have you seen in mommy?
You know, my mother doesn't sleep. She always prays for me.
The brainchild of painstaking research, above all, reminds his future wife to be tolerant and love till they die in each other's arms.
I will love you not till 70 but till eternity.
This line encourages couples to hold together and not get to the dreaded point of divorce. And hey, dear future wife will not wear makeup or bleach.
Whereas others wear makeup to get them hookups, dear future wife will always wear smiles forging the fires of natural beauty. For this and many reasons, loving you will be my duty.
Kokumi, a level 400 student at the Ghana Institute of Journalism, sees Dear Future Wife as a food for thought for couples and wannabe couples alike.
It's our time we learn something from the songs or the poems that we listen to. We not just use it for artistic purposes.
His fans applauded his ability to critically assess marriage and motherhood.
But I think that marriage has become something that's not as durable as it used to be in the olden days. Whoever you're going to marry impacts your success. So he's obviously sitting down and giving it much thought and writing a letter, breaking down what his expectations are, which I think maybe a lot of young people should sort of follow.
Team members and mates of the fast-rising poet and composer of over 100 poems are proud of his exploits.
A message to future wife. Dear future wife, search for me. Let me take you to my mom. If she agrees, you are the future wife.
All right.
Interesting.
I mean, the controversy has started. Definitely, you will take your future wife to your mom, but you dare not tell your future wife you love your mom more than
he wants trouble, right?
Absolutely.
Well, that's it for News 360. Thanks so much for watching. I am Portia Gabo.
I am Issa Morning.
Coming up is music.
God, that's good.